Good evening, my beauties and bees. Welcome to another episode of Cryptic Corner, where we explore the unexplained, the supernatural, the paranormal and hidden, the mysterious, the alien, the accursed, and the forbidden. Boy, do I have a good one for you guys today. And let me know if the audio sounds better, because I had the wrong audio before. That's why it was really echoey and weird. Because I've been unplugging my mic a lot more lately, just to make more room on my desk. But because it strips across there. But so let me know if the audio sounds better. And welcome to the show, everybody. We got a nice live chat that's popping off over here. And if you want to be part of that group, with a spooky group over here with Spooky Bed Hair himself, you can participate with the Hive every Saturday morning at 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time when we do Live from the Hive. And Live from the Hive's very first segment is this, Cryptic Corner, where we talk about the unexplained, supernatural, paranormal, and hidden, the mysterious, the alien, the accursed, and the forbidden, which is our tagline. So, welcome to the show, and today we are going to visit an old friend of the show. Someone who's been a focus of this segment since the very beginning. I think like maybe the fourth episode. Maybe it was the fourth episode was about Sasquatch. But this is Bigfoot, man-eaters, and killer Sasquatch. All right, and the channel is Late Night Strange, and Late Night Strange means something different in some communities, in the swinger community. Yeah, and they got all kinds of fun videos that we might go back and visit, especially ones like this. Many of these animals were once cryptids, so I think I might blow the lid off that claim too. But there's a lot of Sasquatch and ghost videos. Look, we got Sasquatch kidnapping, we got paranormal agents in the ghost estates, cave demons, people seeing strange lights in the woods, Freddy Krueger and the sleep paralysis demons. That's about Sons. He did that. Craven did base his Freddy Krueger character off of this. Okay, sounds good. I love it. I'm glad the audio is good, and y'all let me know if the video's audio is good too, because we're about to dive right into it. So this is Bigfoot, Man-Eaters and Killers, Sasquatch, and it's got a disclaimer warning graphic images, and it talks about the Vietnam rock apes, which if you're not familiar with the lore, we're going to get familiar with it. I am. And this is not the first time that I've watched a video on it. Here we go. Oh, no, when you go back to the beginning.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Late Night Strange. Today's topic, we are going to be discussing about Bigfoot. So today I'm not going to be talking too much about personal encounters or the history of Bigfoot. I believe the History Channel, podcasters, YouTubers have already filled that void. And if I just spend the next 10 or 15 minutes talking about that, it's just going to bore everybody to death, and it's going to be very repetitive. So what I'm going to do today is talk about the species of Bigfoot that have been seen all over the world, and the types and what people think of them. And of course, the strange things about Bigfoot that nobody likes talking about.
Hey, hold on just a second. Do I only have six thumbs up and 16 people watching? Do y'all not want to see Bigfoot eat people? Are you guys here to see a cannibal Bigfoot that's munching down on Cousin Dave? Not Captive Death Dave. I have a cousin Dave. He got eaten by a Bigfoot. I don't talk about it. But come on, let's get those thumbs up, guys. Come on. Let YouTube know that you like what I'm doing here every Saturday morning, so they start sending more people my way. Yes, let's do it. Let's get back into Sasquatch. Watch this. I like this guy running.
So It's going to be a pretty interesting talk tonight. And I will tell about my dad and my ancestors, their perspective on Bigfoot and the types of Bigfoot that their village have encountered.
Oh my gosh, Sumami, you come up with the best little taglines. Are you not, what is that, Sasquatch tamed? Are you not Sasquatch tamed? Are you not Sasquatch tamed? That's got to be something Dave's going to make a meme about now.
While living in the jungle of Laos. So I hope you guys find my take on it interesting. And we're going to be discussing about the killer Bigfoots out there in the world. Alright, enough talking. Let's get started. What is a Bigfoot, one may ask? Bigfoot is often described as a large, muscular, bipedal ape or human-like creature covered in black, dark brown, or reddish darkish hair. Those who
There's albino Bigfoots too, they're just not as common. We should do an albino Bigfoot episode for the holidays or sometime during the Christmas season to celebrate Bumble from the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer movies. I do like those. I grew up with their Rankin Bass, a abominable snowman that gets his teeth pulled out so he's not mean anymore. Could you imagine that being like what happens to you? It's like, we're going to pull all your teeth out. I guess I can't eat you anymore. Let me put the star on top of your Christmas tree instead.
who have seen this creature have reported them to be at least 6 to 9 feet tall. On rare occasions, some even said they were 10 to 15 feet tall. So according to HiveScience, there's been over 10,000 reported sightings in the United States alone. And that is just what they documented. Imagine
there is a phenomena, right? It does exist. The phenomena exists. That's what I tell people when I go into these Bigfoot groups. It's like, I'm never going to argue with you guys that this phenomena exists. It does. Something's happening here, right? I mean, what it is, it isn't exactly clear. There's no man with a gun, though. If there was, we'd have a dead Sasquatch, and then we wouldn't have to worry about whether or not they were real, because we would know. That's my problem, because there's, if there's, for every Sasquatch in the woods, there's like 1,200 hunters. So, for every Sasquatch sighting or whatever in the woods, there's like 1,200 hunters hunting that same strip of woods, and nobody ever sees them. They're huge. Anyway.
Imagine all the undocumented sightings where people are afraid to come out and tell the world or people that they know that they've seen Bigfoot because they're afraid of being labeled crazy or nuts. But for those of you who has been listening to a lot of Sasquatch podcasts or just even, looking up in YouTube channels and stuff like that.
That's me you're talking about. Yay. Yeah, sorry about the poor audio on the beginning there. I see people mentioned that it did change. Good.
Sometimes, in a couple episodes, these podcasters will come out and say there are a lot of credible images, videos that never surface on the internet because these people, they have families of Bigfoot or Bigfoot living on their land, and they don't want to make it public because they're afraid that people might track where they are and come and pretty much harass these Bigfoots off their land and pretty much just chase them out. So a lot of these people that live out in the rural areas that own hundreds of acres are usually pretty hush-hush about this topic.
So, I don't know about that. I think a lot of people would try to monetize it. Bigfoot's living on their land. Yes, they're going to get big, the country folk, they're going to get big lifted trucks, and they're going to take people on tours to see the Bigfoot out into the back country. That's what's going to happen. They're going to do like they do in any other wildlife. They're going to get big lifted trucks or vans with plexiglass or whatever over the windows and drive people out to see them. That's what they would do. That's actually what like Todd Standing's grift's all about. But yeah.
But of course, somebody always needs somebody to talk to that 100% believes them, and And those who will hear them out are these podcasters and YouTubers. One of the most famous films out there is known as the Patterson-Gimlin film, recorded in October.
There is quite a bit of exposition. Well, I should say quite a bit. He's only 3 minutes in. I should give him a break. I just got to keep stopping it just because of the, god damn it, WinZip ads. Because of the algorithm, but. You know.
October 20th, 1967 by Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin.
I rode across the creek. I got off the horse and took my rifle out of the scabbard in case I had to make a shot. She made that turn to look. Kept right on walking. She went on up out of sight up that canyon.
Hey Vandalia, I see you out there. Do you got a link? Will you drop a link? You should have a link by now, I'm sure, but drop a link, my friends, so people know where to find us tonight when we talk about arachnids.
All this time I'm thinking, holy mackerels, these things do exist.
They recorded a Bigfoot walking through the woods. It's about 59 seconds long, where you see this female Bigfoot walking and takes a look back at them. And this video right now still being very highly analyzed and very scrutinized.
Yeah, so this is the video. The video, like I said, laying a lot of groundwork on Sasquatch lore. This is the Patterson-Gimlin footage, and we see Patty here, and there was the gentleman, what's his name, the cowboy guy that said he was in this suit. Welcome to the show, Asho64. It's good to see ya. I appreciate you tuning in. Oh, you passed 10K views this morning. Great for you there, Captive Desk. I'm happy to hear you're growing. AR, we are the Squatchcasters. I'm not really, don't consider myself a Squatchcaster though, because I do more a broader array of topics than just Sasquatch, but I do interact with a lot of Sasquatch people, and I do talk Sasquatch with those people when I interact with them. So I do talk about Sasquatch a lot. I know a lot about it. I know a lot about the lore and the origins and all that good stuff. So I'm not out of my element or anything when I go into those groups.
And still a debated subject today, saying whether it was a fake video or real.
She's got some maximum thickness in the back end, but she's got no butt crack at all. Do y'all notice that? It's just a solid dome back there like a cone head.
Real or not, this video evidence has been one of the most profounding footage we have of Bigfoot if this creature really exists. After the release of this film, there has...
She ain't got butt cheek, she's got like one cheek. A butt cheek. People don't talk about that though when they talk about Bigfoot. They're just lucky that they found the footprints before they found the sitting prints, or else we'd just call it one cheek. You're like, there's a one cheek sighting in the Pacific Northwest.
There's been a lot of hoax that followed with it.
This is as real as you're standing right where you are, sir.
Say they stuffed the Bigfoot carcass in a freezer and for an undisclosed amount handed over the frozen creature. But after some thawing, all that was left, a rubber gorilla outfit. Calls to the two men about their fake discovery.
Yeah, I remember that one. That one was pretty hilarious. These two guys with their rubber suit Bigfoot. Asho64, depends on where you're following at. If you are on, I do a morning announcement on Twitter before the show starts and on my Facebook group. It will automatically do an announcement on my Discord group to say that I'm going live, and then a half an hour before I go live, there should be an announcement on the channel that says that we are going live in half an hour. So I think that I got lots of alerts out there. You just gotta you got to be in the place to get them. So if you follow me on Twitter, if you're in the Facebook group, if you're on my Discord server, or you follow my YouTube channel and ring the bell, it will tell you, somehow it should, that I'm here every Saturday morning, 9:30 a.m. with Live from the Hive, where we dive into Cryptic Corner and have a good time. We do everything we've done recently. We did sewer gators. We talk about psychic powers and ghost cats and all sorts of weird stuff. So if you're into that, if you're into the forbidden cities under the Grand Canyon and insectoid aliens invading your bedroom, then come back and hang out with us more, because we love to dive right into these topics.
Haven't been returned. Mike Gracia, The Associated Press.
Even though some of these hoax that happens in the United States has been proven to be a hoax, you cannot dismiss the reports that happens all around the world. Picture this. Just imagine this. Over 10,000 reports in the United States alone. There's so much other reportings outside of the United States. Even if one of those reports were real, that means that Bigfoot really does exist. So we know this creature as Bigfoot, but the Native Americans, they call them Sasquatch, also known as Wild Man.
Sasquatch is also a regional name. It's just the one that became the most popular. I think it's the Nahanni name for him. You might clarify here, but
in the United States alone, there are over 100 names for this creature.
True.
It all depends which region you're from, which tribe, where you grew up, and the stories that follows these creatures. So I'm just gonna give you guys an example. Down in Florida, they call it the skunk ape. Skunk ape pretty much lives in the Everglades.
So I'm not convinced that the skunk ape is the same phenomena as Bigfoot. Skunk ape has some distinctive characteristics that do set it apart from regular Bigfoot sightings, but there's a type of sighting that does overlap a lot with Bigfoot, that is most prominent in Florida, but also is documented or reported in like swamp areas, from Florida being prominent. Also, there is a similar swamp ape in Louisiana. You got, of course, the folk monster, the Boggy Creek, all the way up the Mississippi Valley to where I grew up with Momo. These shaggy, stinky, lives in and near the water kind of creatures. Sometimes they have weird numbers of toes, like 3 toes or 7 toes, weird stuff like that. Mostly they have reduced digits though. But the Rougarou or whatever from Louisiana, there's a whole lot of southern creatures that are a bit different than what you see from your typical Bigfoot sightings. They're not quite as bipedal. They move also on all fours like apes do. And they tend to be sighted quite often in or around the water, and places where you would be crazy to see a person go, and they'll have video footage of them like waiting and stuff like that. Anyway,
you can smell it before you see it. They have a skunky odor that burns your nostril, and they are super dirty. But in Georgia, they call them the woolly booger. Minnesota, they call them the Iceman. North Dakota, they call them the Madden Monster. It just goes on. And
so my grandma was from Tennessee, and she called them boogers, and she said you could smell them in the woods when she was a kid, but they're all gone now. So there's that. I don't know what they were smelling, or who they were running into out in the woods, but that's what she said. Someday I'll talk about grandma more.
And on and on. I can tell you all 100 names if you like, but I'm not going to get into that right now. The one creature that I really want to talk about is called the rock ape of Vietnam. And this creature lives close to my heart because my dad have always talked about this creature when he was back in Laos. Believe it or not, there's actually 2 different types of species that my dad always talked about when he lived back in Laos. One
Here we
was the
go, rock apes,
which in my culture they call it the Marlu. The other one is actually more of a spiritual being or a magical being, or a magical Bigfoot that has supernatural powers. That one is pretty much a strange side of Bigfoot that nobody likes talking about, and that is what they call the Pinot Vai.
And there's that lore kind of crosses over with all Bigfoot too. There's always a supernatural element that some demographics will tie into it. In the Bigfoot community, there's actually a struggle between those two factions, the naturalist and the supernaturalist, because it's a Bigfoot, so you can make any kind of claim about it you want. You give it any kind of attributes. You say it teleports. You can say it disappears. You can say it uses its abilities to interfere with cameras. Whatever you want to claim about it, you can just throw that out there, because there's nothing grounded currently about Bigfoot. And I'm just going to be blunt with everybody right now. I'm actually not a Bigfoot believer. I was for a long time. Definitely not now, after decades of research and exploration and folklore research, which is the most important part of any kind of Bigfoot research, if you ask me, and looking into the folklore behind what it was that was being encountered here. And we see again an archetype that over last night on CrypticCorner, Friday night, where we premiere these. This will be on Friday night here in a few weeks. This episode will be, but we talked about the Hat Man and the archetype that people encounter. And Bigfoot is the Wild Man is a similar kind of archetype that is definitely ancient, that actually, unlike the Hat Man and the claims about the Hat Man, wild men show up in cave paintings. Wild men show up in tens of thousands of year old art depicting hairy people and whatnot. So there is a phenomena there. Again, I accept the phenomena. I don't accept that it is a unidentified species of primate. I think there's something else here. I don't know what it is. I'm not claiming to. I think that if there was an unknown primate that we would have of that size, that we in those ranges, that we would have found evidence. We haven't. So we're gonna go with no.
So let's talk a little bit about the rock apes. The rock apes were described to be very hairy, Sasquatch-like humanoids. They were said to be from about 3 to 7 feet tall. So compared to the United States Sasquatch, they aren't that tall. They were very muscular, and then a lot of them had protruding stomachs. Their hair color ranges from red, orange, brown, to even black in color, covering everything except for their knees, soles of their feet, hands, and face. According to Thai and Vid people, they were also known as the forest people. They live deep in the jungles, they don't shy away from human contact at all, and they were even known to sit beside villagers and make fires. So they do have some intelligence.
So to be blunt here about the rock ape too, when it comes to the identity of this creature, some of the guys that come back and reported that rock apes were some Sasquatch thing. Other guys came back and said, oh, they're monkeys. And even there's another name for them, even like another common name that other people know them by is mountain monkeys, because they live in the up in the mountainous regions. But they were monkeys, and they identified them as monkeys, not as an unknown hominid, not as an ape or anything like a Sasquatch at all. They were monkeys. They were big monkeys, big macaques, is what they reported. Big macaques. So let's see. Just real quick, I'm just going to pull over. We're going to halt for a second, and we're going to look at some of the species of macaques that are, or some of the species of primates that are indigenous to Vietnam. Because maybe it's going to be shocking to you to know that there's this many species of primates in Vietnam. Right? Look at that. That's a lot of monkeys. We don't have any in the North America, except for whatever lives down in Central America and humans everywhere. But Vietnam gets this little tiny country, gets all this diversity. And some of these are apes. These are apes right here. Gibbons. Right? We know what a gibbon is. My audience overlaps with guts that gibbon. You've seen a gibbon. They're primates that have little heads and stand about this tall and probably look pretty much like a weird little human running around when they're on the ground. Now I feel obligated to show you all a gibbon running on the ground. But I remember a couple weeks back, I felt obligated to show you all a Siriema banging a lizard on a rock, and I got a copyright strike for it. But let's see. I think I actually, let's see, gibbons. There we go. They'll walk in a second. Get down on the ground. Like so, if you see that walking through the woods, like that, right? Rock apes. They're so funny. I love them. You want to see it? Gibbons. What was that? That's just not what teeth. That's what they sound like too. Look at that. See, now think about it. You're a soldier trudging through the jungles of Vietnam, and you hear that, right? And maybe they start throwing stuff at you. Maybe they start throwing stuff at you while they're shrieking and hooting and hollering. Oh my gosh, you'd be terrified, right? So that is my opinion on rock apes. But let's let them continue on.
Some of the most fascinating stories came after the Vietnam War, where American GI soldiers told their stories after returning home of their encounters with these creatures. And to make matter even crazier, these soldiers didn't just come out and say, hey, yeah, these creatures really do exist. They came out and said, we actually had a gunfight and a battle with these creatures. So a group of military personnel was actually found dead, torn from limb to limb after supposedly engaging in this rock throwing battle with these creatures. It even got so
there's that's the, what was his name? He was the one that they claimed was part man. Because you know, when chimps get older they lose their hair, so they start to look more humanish.
bad to the point where there was a hill in Vietnam that was called Monkey Mountain because there's just so much rock ape sightings around that hill.
The rainforests of Asia harbor many stories of strange encounters. 1,000 miles north of Malaysia, deep in the jungles of Laos, exists what many believe is a relative of America's legendary Bigfoot. The year was 1966. America's at war with Vietnam. For the first time ever, U.S. soldiers are faced with full-scale jungle warfare. As military missions take forces deep into the heart of the Indo-Chinese forest, extraordinary...
Right, young guys right out of school from the U.S., not a lot of worldly experience, not a lot of exposure to... Well, again, we have no primates whatsoever in the U.S. I'm sure that a lot of the guys maybe seen apes in zoos. Enough to know what an ape is, so they were able to identify gibbons as apes, but weren't able to identify them any further, other than that they threw rocks at them and hooted and hollered.
Stories begin to filter back from the field. Stories about encounters with strange creatures. As a young soldier in Vietnam in 1969, veteran Tom Jacobs was often sent on missions into the...
How long are we going to be hooked into this Discovery Channel documentary? Because that gets me in trouble. It's the Discovery Channel. We're going to have to stop every couple of seconds through this, so hang in there.
Jungle.
Yeah, Oliver the Humanzi. Thank you, Nikki. Welcome to the show, Nikki. Good morning. Hey, Trees. Good to see ya.
One day, though, he witnessed something he will never forget.
We really didn't know what it was. It sounded like the North Vietnamese were attacking us with tanks.
A band of large primates began throwing rocks at his platoon.
I had heard that there had been previous problems with what we called rock apes, and in fact, at one point, a band of them threw one Marine off the rock pile. And so we were wary of them, without a doubt.
What Sergeant Jacobs had seen may have been any one of a number of primate species which inhabit the Indo-Chinese forest. But several times, he says, they came face to face with a creature that was entirely different.
This animal was stockier. He was of darker color, a lot more muscular. This different creature would, early in the morning, burst out of the jungle into a clearing and just rail at us, just yell and scream and shake his fist.
Remember what we just looked at, guys. Remember what we just saw, right? The hooting, hollering. They're loud, and yeah, and they are tall for an ape. They're tall, and if they live in pairs, right? Sometimes they'll live in a pair with their young, but they can work together. They can if they put their effort into it, they could wreck a person. It doesn't sound like they were opening fire on them at this time, so I imagine they understood that they were just animals.
And it was very human behavior, and it was real obvious that he took exception to our presence there.
During the Vietnam War, it wasn't only American soldiers who had run-ins with what appeared to be a type of Bigfoot. On the North Vietnamese side, there were...
Yeah, so as Host 64, this show is recorded live from the Hive every Saturday morning, but they premiere on Friday nights. So this is where we record the live segment, and then it premieres on a Friday night, every Friday night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So if you're just here for Cryptic Corner, and you want to catch up on that, there's a full playlist, I believe, with every episode that you're eligible to. Let me see if I can grab that and drop it in the chat. Just a second. Here is. Here's the playlist for backed episodes of Cryptic Corner.
Were also bizarre reports of a strange creature attacking soldiers in the jungle.
Before all the reports and all the sightings about the rock apes that came out after the Vietnam War,
Minnesota Iceman, Bernard Hovelman, come on, bring it on.
during bedtime, my dad would always tell us these stories about these Marlu ape-like creatures. They would stand outside of somebody's house, or they would stand nearby trails where people will walk by, especially deep in the woods, because most of the gardens are 2 to 3 hours away from where people live. So a lot of times these villagers would take these small little trails to go to the garden.
You're going to show that Iceman, you better tell me about it. I want you to tell me about the Minnesota Iceman. Tell me the lore. My chair is so noisy. I got this chair, it wasn't so noisy. I just need to flip it over and tighten some stuff up.
And that's where these Marlu would sit there and just wait for villagers to walk by. What they would do is they'll grab them right in the arms, look up to the skies, and just stares and just laughs and just kind of wait to see if there's any signs saying that they can't eat this person. Most of the time, the stories are told that if there was a lightning or a thundercloud coming through, they will let that person go and they just kind of disappear back into the woods. But if they didn't see any signs of thunderstorm or any storm coming through, they would eat them right then and there. This happened so much to the point where the villagers have to come out with a solution. What they did was they came out with these bamboo sleeves that they will wear every single time when they come out of the house or when they're walking to their gardens, because these bamboo sleeve acts like a escaping device where they can just slip out of it easily and start running for their lives. It is said that if you are being chased by these Marlu or rock apes, since they have locked knees, you want to run in a zigzag pattern through the woods or run uphill.
See, they say they have locked knees really makes me think that this is talking about gibbons. And gibbons gibbons, as far as we know, haven't been known to eat people. So, yeah, as far as we know.
If you run downhill, you're pretty much dead. And growing up, hearing all these stories, I thought it was just folklores or bedtime stories, until the accounts of rock apes came out after the Vietnam War. The craziest thing about this is the GIs went into Vietnam War thinking that they're just going to be fighting the Viet Congs and the Red Laos. But they ended up fighting 3 enemies, which one of them were rock apes. And if you don't
I just think that they were being harassed by gibbons. I'm just gonna keep repeating that, I guess. As soon as they give me some evidence that it's something else.
Believe me, just look up the rock ape encounters or just watch the documentary about the rock apes and comb through the comments. There's so much accounts of people's grandfathers or grandparents telling them about encounters with the rock apes. It makes you wonder why between 1965 and 1975, why the United States dropped more than 7.5 million tons of bombs in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia alone. Pretty much double the amount.
I don't think that they dropped bombs for non-native primates. I would love for Bigfoot to be real too, Vandalia. Absolutely. They think I was a baby Bigfoot. You think you're a baby Bigfoot, Sumami? They'd steal you for reproductive purposes. That's what they do in the folklore. They steal women in the night. They'd be rather disappointed trying to steal me for that, but, you know, you live and learn as a rock ape. Save the Vietnamese Bigfoot.
They dropped in Europe and Asia during World War II. I understand that the Viet Cong had a lot of tunnels that they dig throughout the jungles as surprise attacks and booby traps. Just think about that. 7.5 million tons of bombs just dropped in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia alone. Were they trying to get rid of something else? I don't know. Imagine going to battle thinking you're going to be fighting another human, but ended up running upon monsters. If you ask me, that makes a perfect Hollywood movie. The idea of Bigfoot...
You think you look like a balding orangutan? Or they're dwarf Bigfoot. So in this area, actually not far from the encounter with the rock ape, there is the Indonesian orangutan, which are tiny, orangutan colored. They're orange. They have orange fur, and they're like yay tall, and they live. We've covered them before. We actually covered the video of the guys with the motorcycles chasing one through the woods. It was running on foot. It was super fast too. But there's those, and then yeah, the rock apes are smaller compared to Bigfoot, which another reason why I think they're gibbons. The Yeti's a little bit smaller, but I mean still bigger than a human. But it would, I guess, be considered a dwarf Bigfoot compared to the 8-foot tall monsters that are reported in North America. Yetis being somewhere between like 6 foot and 7 foot, 7.5 foot maybe tall. You know.
Foot and rock apes attacking and eating humans isn't a fairy tale. Those of you who have been following David Paulides' Missing 411.
This guy. All right, David Paulides, Missing 411. He does the book about people disappearing in national parks. He does several books about people disappearing in specific parks. He has books about the United States. He has books about parks around the world. He has some theories that if you really start to try to sink your teeth into them, you'll realize there's no meat on those bones. If you get my meaning, it's not a high performing argument, right? It doesn't hold up to scrutiny. But he does it because he can draw correlation between these people were near water, these people were found in a rock field, these people were lost during a storm, or there was rain after they disappeared, or there was snow. All these correlations that he draws, and then he throws in he sprinkles in some Bigfoot. Oh, they come back when it's kids. They come back talking about a hairy person. Hey, when the Dennis Martin case, yeah, well, that deserves its own whole episode. I guess we kind of have done our own whole episode. The South Force 10 episode was mostly about the Dennis Martin case and David Paulides. But yeah, he's basically what I consider a grifter, just because he's profiting off missing persons, which is kind of icky in my opinion.
Knows that a lot of these strange cases of people going missing in national forests has a lot of correlation with Bigfoot sightings. To those of you who don't know who David Paulides is or the Missing 411 cases, David Paulides is a former police officer who is now an investigator and a writer known for primarily his self-published book dedicated to proving the reality of Bigfoot. That is what he did back then, but now dedicates his time to pretty much research these missing cases of people that have gone.
So here's the problem, okay? Let's say you're someone whose family member went missing in a national park, and they're on a missing persons list, right? And people are supposed to be on the lookout for them. How is it going to help to have them in a book saying that they were kidnapped by Sasquatch, right? That only helps them stay missing.
On missing in national forests, parks, or around the world. In his Missing 411 books, he doesn't come out and say Bigfoot did it, but the more you read and the more you listen to these stories, there's a lot of resemblance of eyewitness accounts seeing these creatures carrying little.
I like how it had no tracks on the checkboard there when Bigfoot. What's Bigfoot famous for? Where's Bigfoot get its name from? Tell me your answers in the chat. Where does the name Bigfoot come from? What did they find to give him that name?
Little kids and running them off through the woods. There's even these cases where search and rescue teams have found these kids weeks later and have pretty much asked them, like, where were you this whole time? And then these kids will come out and say, the fuzzy man took care of me, or a bear man took care of me, you know, and they were fed.
That's Momo. That's not Fuzzy Man. I know that art piece because I'm from Missouri. That's Momo. It's on the cover of the Momo book. Yeah. Momo is famous for his giant head. Of all the Bigfoots, he had the biggest. He's reported to have this big giant head. Right, Nikki. David Paulides leaves out all kinds of stuff. I have little nightmares about getting lost and my case turning into some missing 411 alien nonsense, right? Wouldn't that be the worst thing to be lost in the woods and you find some abandoned old cabin and you turn on a TV and David Paulides is on the TV talking about how you were kidnapped by Bigfoot and they're calling off the search?
At berries and stuff like that, and it's just a interesting read, and it just blows your mind once you get into the rabbit hole with the Missing 411 series. But these were the cases where the kids or the person was found. Majority of the time, those people who go missing are never recovered, or else, you know, they were found 1 or 2 years later and they have already passed away. So,
and it's horrible. These people disappear and this stuff happens to them and they get their remains strewn about by nature and wildlife, and it's tragic. To grift off of that though.
Highly recommend for anybody who likes strange and weird stuff. But my take on it is I started reading all this stuff and just pretty much digesting everything in the Missing 411.
We need to do a Missing 411 book group, Nikki, Dave, where we read get together and read like a chapter of it live on a stream every week. That'd be fun. Or maybe just once a month. Sumami, you're always welcome too. You always worry about your audio, but you sounded fine last night.
101. And a lot of these cases happen near limestone or places that have cave systems. So I started pretty much piecing those.
North America, limestone and cave systems? Oh, those are rare, huh? That's not most places in North America where there's a national park or anything. Jesus fucking Christ.
Those two things together, and then looking at all the Bigfoot encounters, and at the same time looking at all the missing accounts throughout the United States. And what I found is such a similarity between 3 maps. One map where people gone missing. Another map is.
Yeah, this is Dave Paulides' initial. This is where he started. This is what he always pulls up and says, I started here. And I don't know what. Yeah. But these are the hot spots, apparently. All these. Obviously, here's the Smoky Mountains, Dennis Martin. You got Yosemite, Joshua Tree. Up here you got the Yellowstone area. Lots of clusters around there, and then the Pacific Northwest is, of course, filled in with that too. It's because these are wild areas. People have always gone missing in these types of areas. People have always vanished into the wilderness. These are you notice that nobody goes missing in the grasslands, right? Nobody's going missing in Kansas like this. Places where there's rugged terrain and heavy forest, places where you cannot be found. It's hard to hide in the freaking Great Plains. That's why you don't see anything right here.
Is where all the Bigfoot sightings have happened, and then another map where cave systems and limestone have been found. And if you just look at those three maps and combine them together, you're gonna see so much similarities. So the stories my dad always told me about Marlu or rock apes eating humans, me personally, I wouldn't dismiss that for the cases that happens in the Missing 411 series. Another Bigfoot creature that we're going to be talking about is called the Nantinak of Alaska, or also known as...
I get that, Nikki. When it comes to Politis, there's a lot to pick apart there, and he has some favorite, or what's the word I'm looking for? Fervent alkalites that will live and die by his word that what he's saying is actually happening.
As the Bigfoot creature that made residents flee from Portlock, Alaska.
We covered
Around
this
the
recently
1940, it was reported that several Dall sheep hunters had disappeared in the hills outside of Portlock. It was also stated in 1973 in an article from Anchorage Daily News that dismembered bodies of some of the missing had washed up ashore in the lagoons. These events led the residents of the community to flee.
If you want to see my opinion on Portlock, let's see. I got the video. I just did it. It's not even. It's still hot on the plate. So let me see how far back was that. Should be Portlock. Back further than I thought, I guess. There it is. It was September 15th. So it's not been that long ago. But here, let me drop the link for this into the side chat. So if anybody wants to go check that out and want to know my opinion on Portlock, I'm gonna speed our homeboy up here and get through Portlock because I'm not gonna cover that whole case again. I'm going to put him up at 2, just until we get past Portlock.
In masses, and the town's post office officially closed between 1950 to 1951. Many other villagers blamed the unexplained deaths and disappearances on the Bigfoot-like creature, referred to local as the Nantinak. So this Nantinak creature was known to be a huge Bigfoot-like creature with supernatural powers. And with that reminds me of the Pinot White that my dad always talked about back in the
bear. It was a bear.
Days. This Pinot White creature is known to be evil and mischievous, and could teleport and could disguise as one of your friends if you guys were to go camping together. It is also known to mimic voices in the woods. So let's say that if you're nearby the edge of the woods, you would hear this distraught voice of one of your family members, and when you get closer and closer and closer, you find out that it is not your family members. It's just something else mimicking.
There's other stuff in Portlock too, though. There's like the woman up on the hills, up on the cliffs. There's devil monkey things, all kinds of good
the voice,
stuff.
So it can lure you to the forest to eat you. And that is what the Pinot White is. A spiritual being or spiritual ape-like creature that feeds on human and is pretty much evil, but has all the features of a Bigfoot in its natural form. Those that have been reported to seeing this creature say sometimes they are about 3 to 4 feet tall, and even reported to be at least 7 to 8 feet tall. So a lot of resemblance with the American Bigfoot, but they have supernatural powers. And that is what this Nantinak reminded me of. But the story just gets a lot more bizarre than that. Let's talk about some of the deaths that happened in 1930s in Portlock, Alaska. So there was a mysterious death in 1931 when a logger named Andrew Camlock, it appeared that he had been hit over the head with a huge piece of logging equipment, something that a man could not even have lifted or swung. So when they found his body, there was blood on the crane, and he was a good 10 feet from it. It looked as if someone or something been accumulated uphill from the tent. That when it came down the terrain, it hit the team members when they were well unaware of. So for tent site. Okay. 2 months later, the remaining 4 bodies were the expedition. One of the 10 classmates decided he wasn't feeling good, so he decided to return. Decided to go there and check it out for themselves. So they have a TV show called Alaskan Killer Bigfoot on Discovery Plus. So you guys.
All right, so we got past the Portlock stuff. I'm gonna slow it back down now. We'll do 1.25, and
if they're interested in that, check that out, or else just go check out the story behind Portlock, Alaska. Very interesting account by the Nantinak Bigfoot killer. Next on the list, we are going to be visiting the Dyatlev's Pass case. For those of you who don't know about this incident, on January 27, 1959, 10 students from the Ural Polytechnic Institution went on a 14-day expedition in the Ural Mountains located in the middle of Soviet Union. Most of these classmates were downhill skiers and cross-country skiers. During the expedition, one of the 10 classmates decided he wasn't feeling good, so decided to return. That decision alone saved his life, because he will never see his classmates alive ever again. When the group didn't return on their expected date,
Now, I don't know how many of you all are familiar with the Dyatlov Pass incident, but the Dyatlov Pass was, these people were found in an odd way. I've heard it was attributed to aliens, to experiments with radiation, to avalanches. But this guy's going to try it into some Bigfoot, so I'm interested to see how this goes.
the village sent out some search and rescue team to go look for them. On February 26, they found the group's tent badly damaged on the slopes of what they call Death Mountain, and what was strange was the group's belongings had been left behind. Further down the mountain, beneath an old Siberian cedar tree, the search and rescue team found 2 bodies only wearing their socks and underwears. Further down more, they found 3 other bodies that were between a tree and the tent site. 2 months later, the remaining 4 bodies were discovered in a ravine between a thick layer of snow. What was strange was several of the deceased bodies had serious injuries, such as fracture to the chest and skull.
Welcome to the channel, Azode64. Thank you so much for joining at the Cryptic Creeper level. We are so glad to have you on board. And Vandalia, member for 6 months. HiveSci will be over on my channel 6:30 p.m. Eastern time to talk about arachnids. That's 5:30 my time, Central Standard. We are going to be talking about arachnids. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Good times. Good times to be had by all.
A few of these bodies were even missing their tongue. The Soviet authorities investigated and determined the causes of these deaths, concluding that the compelling nature forces...
It's almost like scavengers go for mucous membrane first. It's almost like mucous membrane with its wet nature also is more susceptible to the elements and to being frostbitten and frozen off.
of avalanches and snowstorms were the cause of the deaths of the hikers, but others have different theories. They blame it on the murderous Yeti that roams the area of Death Mountain. But on the night of the tragedy, one of the most important contribution factors was the presence of the katabatic winds. Winds that carry air down a slope under the force of gravity. These winds are so strong that it could carry and transport the snow, which would have been accumulated uphill from the tent, that when it came down the terrain, it hit the team members when they were well unaware of. So for the 2 people that were found without their clothes on, except for their socks and underwear, it is said that when you have hypothermia, you will feel very hot inside, thus taking off all your clothes, unaware of the risk that you put yourself in that cold of an environment. Even with the authorities stating...
I always thought maybe that there was someone doing the use my body to keep you warm kind of thing for someone who had gotten maybe wet or got buried in the avalanche for a long time, that they may have been doing the, hey, let's strip down and wrap ourselves up together so we share body heat. Might have been the reason. Just a thought. People can do that.
They have solved this mystery of the 9 hiker at the Dyatlov Pass, but to many who still believes this was a Yeti attack, there's a lot of strange occurrences during that time that didn't make sense to investigators. For example, why did the hikers cut themselves out of their own tent, and why did they leave a freshly meal perfectly laid out and ready to eat? And most of them left their tent without any winter jackets at all, despite being negative 13 degrees. And the bodies with broken ribs had none of the damage to the soft tissue. That goes along with even a blunt force impact to the body. Their injuries were pretty much consistent with crushing. There were even some of the hikers that were
crushing like there was an avalanche,
missing their eyes and tongues, which was very strange. What is more strange of all is some of the hikers' clothes were radioactive. There was even a theory stating that it was a government experience gone wrong.
There we go. That's the one I was talking about. A government experiment gone wrong. Radiation and all that good stuff. Yeah. We'll have to explore this in more detail when when I'm able to focus more on Dyatlov Pass specifically. I was hoping this was more just about the rock ape because of the thumbnail. That's okay.
On the Yeti. During this incident, strange orbs of light were also seen above this mountain. But of course, out of all these theories, 2 most popular theories are Yeti attacks and alien encounter. So the Yeti is an ape-like creature, usually all...
People like a good conspiracy. That's just human nature. We want it to be something spooky and creepy.
White. That inhabits the Himalayan mountain in Asia and the Ural Mountains in Russia. In Western popular culture, The creature is commonly referred as to the abominable snowman. The Yeti has been portrayed as a nice fluffy character in Monsters Inc. and in Disney movies, but here are just some violent encounters.
What Disney movie was the Yeti a nice, fluffy, friendly creature? I remember him being friendly in Rudolph, Bumble. He wasn't friendly at the beginning, though. Had to take out all his teeth first. But yeah, the abominable snowman in Monsters Inc. is pretty chill. He makes lemon snow cones. No one asks him where he gets the lemons.
That has been reported in Russia. In 1925, a Russian military expedition was reported.
Now, Russia, are we talking about Almas or Yetis? Because they're reportedly different. Yetis are definitely more like a Bigfoot thing, whereas Almas are reported to be more like a Neanderthal person that's being encountered.
Being attacked by a Yeti in eastern Siberia. In 1945, Soviet soldiers have claimed to have a violent encounter with a Yeti in a cave. In 1953, a group of hunters narrowly escaped a Yeti attack while shooting caribous. With over hundreds of reports of Yeti, these are only a few instances where Yetis were known to attack. And for those 9 hikers that went on the expedition that perished, could it really be a Yeti attack? Even though there are a lot of theories out there, nobody will ever know the truth of what happened to those 9 hikers. Now let's get into the rabbit hole of what happens around Bigfoot and with Bigfoot sightings. These are just some of the strange things that happens around Bigfoot that I would like to talk about that most people won't.
Most
my
people
previous
won't.
Video of the strange lights in the woods.
Well, there's
Strange
some
lights
eye shine that primate wouldn't have. Or not a primate. Primates can have eye shine, but not a ape, not a hominoid, not an anthropoid.
Have been seen after Bigfoot sightings, or even reported seeing Bigfoots transform into these lights to kind of move and travel around throughout the forest without being detected. It is a theory that dates all the way back to 1973, where more Bigfoot hunters are running into more of these orange orbs, or also known as wonder lights.
We just call them ghost lights. The levee walker's ours here. Actually, in my town, it's called the levee walker. It walks up and down the levee on the Mississippi, and it's an orange orb. I don't know, it's never been associated with Bigfoot, though. And there's like the Joplin lights and stuff, which are pretty regular.
Those are the fast-moving lights that one may think that are alien in nature, but seen in areas associated with Bigfoot. There's been so many reports of these Bigfoots appearing and then disappearing out of nowhere.
Eddie, make sure you bring your EpiPen next time. You can use mine this time, but make sure you bring your own. Everybody needs to bring their own EpiPen when BugBot's in the stream. I'm not responsible for any allergic reactions.
There was even one incident on the Skinwalker Ranch where a bunch of scientists followed tracks of a big humanoid creature all the way to a clearing field. They followed tracks all the way to the middle, and the track simply just vanished out of thin air as if the creature walked through a portal or something. With all these accounts and the mystery orbs as transporting beams for Sasquatch, or Sasquatch just simply walking through portals, isn't really bizarre when all these cases come together and talks about the same thing. So what I'm trying to say is, growing up there's always stories about 2 different Bigfoot. One was a physical being, just like an ape-man-like creature, and the other one was a magical being that was more of an interdimensional traveler. That is why most of these accounts of people seeing Bigfoot hide behind trees, and when they go take a look behind the tree, they don't see anything at all. The creature just simply vanished in thin air, which is extremely strange.
Teleporting Bigfoot. Yeah, we didn't mention that when we talked about supernatural earlier, but yeah, there's the notion that Bigfoot's not even from this plane of existence, but is being sighted interdimensionally, may not even realize it. May be moving through its plane of existence, chilling in its Bigfoot life, just like we are chilling in our human lives, and our worlds overlap. That's the theory I've heard. Kind of cute.
Aside from that, these creatures have also been known to have red glowing eyes, yellow, green, you name it, all these colors. People have seen them. And when I say glowing, I mean glowing, because eye shine, how eye shine occurs is when light enters and passes through the rods and the cones of the retina, striking a special membrane behind the retina, and then is reflected back through the eye to the light source, making the animals see in the dark. But this wasn't the case with this creature. Reports have said these eyes will glow like coals of fire in the pitch black dark of night. Wherever Bigfoot sighting happens, you'll
hear those same claims about like black dog sightings too, or big cat or black panther sightings, things like that. So again, there's some archetype stuff going on here. Interesting.
We see more paranormal things happen around it. It seems like a force field that attracts all these cryptids together, where demonic spirits have been seen.
You want to have a love affair with a Yeti, where you like snuggle and lay into his floofy Yeti chest? That does sound so soft.
sure have been seen Bigfoot and lights in the woods along with poltergeist activities. Next time when you see a Bigfoot hunter, ask him the simple question: what else do you see in the woods besides Bigfoot? What else do you hear in the woods besides Bigfoot? They would tell you they see shadow people, they see demonic stuff. A lot of paranormal things happen when people go searching for Bigfoot. These are some of the things that Bigfooters do not like talking about. There's even been reports of what they call the predator, which is a cloaking.
I talk to Bigfoot people all the time, Bigfoot hunters, Bigfoot investigators, all the time, and none of them are saying they don't want. If they have other encounters, they're eager to talk about those as well, whether it's Dogman or lights in the forest, whatever. They're happy to talk about them.
Bigfoot. And when I say predator and cloaking, I really mean it. People have seen silhouettes of these huge giant creatures cloaking in the forest, where they could just make an outline of them while they're moving through the forest, but they can see right through them, transparent. There's even been
Pareidolia. Oh, is this Mars? Are we going to talk about Mars?
talks of Bigfoots being aliens coming from spacecrafts, because most of these UFO sightings happens also where Bigfoots have been seen. One of the most famous research out there happens on Skinwalker Ranch. Skinwalker Ranch, also known as the Sherman
Skinwalker
Ranch,
Ranch.
sits on 512 acres.
Another place that we are well familiar with in the Hive, let me tell you, sir. But I like the wolf on Skinwalker Ranch. It's my favorite.
Located southeast of Ballard, Utah. This site has everything from paranormal, UFO, Bigfoot sightings, poltergeists, and the name Skinwalker Ranch, or Skinwalker, comes from the Navajo legends concerning that vengeful shamans curse the land to anybody who lives on it. It is a story straight out of a Hollywood movie where a billionaire buys a plot of land and hires some of the best scientists in the world to come study all these paranormal events that happens on Skinwalker Ranch. There's so much things that happen on this ranch.
So, are you plugging? Is this another plug for the History Channel show about Skinwalker Ranch? Because that's where all this hype was coming from. Skinwalker Ranch has been debunked, and now the History Channel or one of those maybe Travel Channel, I think it was History Channel though, they've actually bought Skinwalker Ranch. They're a subsidiary, and now they're trying to hype it up as a paranormal hotspot again.
That I'm not going to get into, but the theory and the talks about Bigfoot walking through portals or simply vanish out of thin air when they're following their foot tracks all happens on this ranch that are well documented by scientists. There's a lot of Bigfooters out there that just wants Bigfoot to be this animal-like creature roaming through the woods, but don't want to acknowledge the strange things that happens around Bigfoot, or the unexplainable disappearance of people. A lot of people want Bigfoot to be this hairy, nice creature that is shy and hides behind a tree. But I'll tell you one thing, most of the accounts... Goodbye, guys, and stay spooky.
Oh, that was a weird edit. I think maybe he had to cut something off. I don't know. Anyway, so that was our Bigfoot, man-eaters and killers, Sasquatch. So that's our Cryptic Corner topic for this morning. What do you guys think? Do you think that that these people were actually witnessing Bigfoot? Do you think Bigfoot actually attacked these Vietnam soldiers? We already talked about Port Locke before. Yeti attacks and whatnot. It's surprised we didn't get into Xana. Maybe we need to do a thing on Xana too. Touched on the missing 411 lore and folklore. So, yeah. Let me know what you all think. Are Bigfoot out there attacking people, or stuff being blamed on Bigfoot? Is missing 411 a sham? Let me know your thoughts on that. For my Cryptic Corner crew, please remember to be kind, take care, and we'll see you next time.